The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Test Management for Regulatory Environments. Our guest speaker today is Vaibhav Srivastav, Development Lead, IBM Rational Software from IBM India Software Labs. Vaibhav Srivastav is the Development Team Lead for Rational Quality Manager and works from the India Software Lab in Bangalore, India. He has keen interest in manual and AMP automated test capabilities and has been driving the work around improved support for regulatory environments to provide more adherence to process and compliance. He is also actively involved in the public APIS support for automated test for RQM using which customers or partners can build test tool integrations with RQM. Along with others, Vaibhav also lead the manual test script recorder integration between Rational Functional Tester and Rational Quality Manager. He has presented at various national and international conferences on topics of testing, is a contributing author as Developer Works and also a contributor to OSLC Automation Workgroup. So, without further delay, I now introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Vaibhav.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Vaibhav. The audience is now able to hear you. Please start the session.
Okay, good. Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vaibhav Srivastav. As Ratna mentioned, I work from the India Labs, IBM India Labs. Today what we are going to talk about is around test management in regulatory environments. And I have a good list of things which I want to cover today. But before I jump on that, what I'll do is I'll give you a brief picture on what we are going to see today. So we'll start off with a quick overview of the tool set because I want to pick one of the tools and then use that to show how that fits in the regulatory environments. We'll talk about a little bit about the terminology which we use here in the IBM tooling. But then really the meat of the material here is what's needed in the regulatory environments, and then how do we make the users get what they want out of the tooling available today in the market. And some of the very high level things which are required in regulatory environments is the cross-domain traceability, which means if I were to build something, why am I building that? How do I build that? And then what is the set of test cases which actually ensure that the functionality was built? More so, what was the test case which was built and ran for a functionality? But then was it actually needed? Did we actually need that test? Was it linked to a particular requirement because of which that test case was run? We'll see some of that today. Then there are different audit requirements which are present in this kind of environment. So things like if something was done, first of all, if it's not printed out on paper, it seems not useful because if an auditor tries to look at the tool, they would just say, give me something printed out on a paper. So can you take those history of modifications, the traceabilities across from requirements to a test plan to a test case, all of that out on the paper. And then what does the user need to do to get that history? If he has to spend a lot of time in maintaining that audit trace, it's not useful, right? So the tools will help you build that sort of history automatically, the actions which are performed, when was that action performed, and then why was that action performed. All that needs to be captured across in the tools so that tomorrow when you have to present all that information to an auditor, you have all that information up front available. And how would all that come into picture? Because if the user goes ahead and does some modification which is not required, then reverting that effect would be more costly. So to avoid that sort of situation, we have sort of a process which lives in the tool. There's this process enactment which happens automatically, and then there's process enforcement. So if from an enforcement perspective, if you think of if I were to run a test case which is not approved, then that test case is really not useful. So the process will actually restrict you from running a test case if that's not approved. That's one of the examples. And then, as I said, there are reporting needs. What's not on paper did not ever happen. That's my theory on regulatory environment needs, right? So anything which is not reportable is not useful in this kind of domain. And Rational Quality Manager, the tool which I'll pick today to talk about all of this, is very well fit in the regular IT domains, the different regulatory environment domains, be it healthcare, in system domains also, if this is automotive or aerospace kind of domain. The tool will be able to cater to that. For the purpose of today's session, we'll just walk through for what's needed in the regulatory environment kind of scenarios. I'll spend the initial 5 minutes on what the tool is about, and then we'll go through the slides and we'll see a few demos also in action so that people can see how the tool works and what are the areas where they need to configure. So Quality Manager, Rational Quality Manager is at a very high level allows you capabilities of test planning, test case construction, manual testing is inbuilt. Then it allows you to execute manual tests and automated tests. And then you can run reports around whatever you've done. It has role-based reporting, live views, which will help you find out what are the requirements, traceabilities, and the execution status and all that. It has timeline support, which means you can manage multiple releases together. The process is inbuilt, so and it has a lot of customization flexibility. So based on what's required, the process can be tweaked so that users have to adhere to that process. From our today's session perspective, Esignatures are also present. It has enhanced audit support, so you should be able to utilize that. And the e-signature requirement is very typical of the regulated environments domain, so that you get out of the box. So now, at a very high level, the test management component, which is in the center on the screen, Rational Quality Manager gives you all that. But then on the left, it integrates with the requirement tools. What I've mentioned on this is only IBM solutions, but Rational Quality Manager can integrate with pretty much any tool which supports OSLC specifications for requirements. So there are external tools which have also integrations with Rational Quality Manager, where you can integrate your even your homegrown requirements management tool to this. And then on the right side, it's defect management solutions. Again, mentioned only the Rational ones, but there are external open source third-party tools which you can integrate with Rational Quality Manager. All that is because of the bottom layer, which you see mentioned as JAS here. All the integrations are built using open services, so you should be able to integrate any third-party tool. Just to give a name, Cell and Jira is also integrated with Rational Quality Manager. So you should be able to manage tasks or defects with that, or the bugs with Bugzilla and that sort of thing. At the bottom, on the screen, what we show is the different point products or the testing tools. Functional testers, performance testers, more as the name suggests, one does the regression GUI-based functional testing. Performance tester is more towards load testing of the application, mimic the number of users and create that sort of load on the application. And then a lot of other tooling, very limited set mentioned over here. But something to mention here is the integration testing which we have for test virtualization. It virtualizes the sort of tests which won't need an actual live machine. It virtualizes the whole system, and then you can run the tests on them. If you had Selenium functional tests also, it's also a functional tester for us. So you can run those tests from Rational Quality Manager as well. So now a little more detail on that, a closer look will explain. So 5 different buckets here on which you can use Rational Quality Manager. Test planning, define your test plans, objectives, define the various scopes and timelines for that. Risk-based testing can be achieved with the tool. Then from a test construction perspective, if you were a team which was using requirements-driven testing and your requirements really drive the tests in your system, then you could achieve that. Different environment coverages can be done in this. Test lab management is inbuilt. If you had a farm of machines on which you run your test, different test beds are available. You could utilize the tool to manage those and run tests on them. Manual testing is inbuilt, test execution and result. Test execution, manual testing is inbuilt, so you can author the test and run the test. Then there are different test automation tools which we integrate with. There's a good long list of tools which we integrate with. A lot of details can be found on jazz.net to use those integrations out of the box. Defect management can happen with the tools. But then along with this, when you're talking about a whole product system, talking about a team managing the requirements, a team managing the defects, somebody managing the development items. So you need a lot of collaboration to happen between them. And then process is key there, because you have to follow a process which is useful right from the requirements to the development to the test and even to the release time, right? So there's process enforcement and enactment which happens in the tool. Review approvals are inbuilt. We'll see some of this going forward on today. And then, as I said earlier, reporting and dashboarding is something which pretty much I've seen every other customer using this. Very naturally, it started coming to every user now. That you need some place where your landing page where you see all the information, and then you take your next steps from that. So that's the dashboard. Everybody gets a dashboard here to use and configure, and then you see real-time live data on these different matrices can be put on these. So that's at a broader level what Rational Quality Manager does. But then if you look deep down inside what the regulatory environment needs are, then the screen changes a little bit. So I really don't want all the stuff, but what I need is I need traceability. I need to make sure that I know what are the gaps. I know what's possible, what's not. I have a matrix sort of thing which is starting from the requirements. Show me what are the development items happening. What are the test cases created? If the test has been run, what is the status of that test? If the test has been run and it's failed, is there a defect available with that? Is the defect resolved or not? You need all that information up front while you're managing a larger project to know if the project is going in the good state and you'll be able to ship it eventually or not. So that's one part of that. And then there is process enactment, which means if you were to follow a certain process that every time when you run a test, all your tests should be reviewed and review approvals should be there. So you need to be able to do that. Audit requirements, the history of modifications, e-signatures are required at times. You want to know what was the state of the artifacts at the time of run. Basically, who ran that, why was it run, and when was it run. Those are the important questions which you need to answer with that. And then different process enforcements will happen. If a test step fails, then you have to mention the actual results for that step. Defects should be filed before the test result has been reviewed or approved, and things like that. So we'll walk through these in detail. Again, dashboarding and reporting will be required in this. So let's look at traceability. This comes very naturally in the product, and while I'm on this screen, let's go back to the product and see what sort of views do you see in Rational Quality Manager. So as I said earlier, the screen should refresh in a second. As I said earlier, everybody gets a dashboard. So I have a dashboard which is showing on the screen right now. And you look at a viewlet which is present over here. It says test case traceability. This really shows me at a concise level what are the test cases, and if I move my mouse over it, it gets me more details of the test case. What are the different test cases which are present? Then the second column shows me what are the requirements linked to it. Third column shows me what are the development items available across that. And I can very well easily visualize this as a gap analysis on the dashboard itself. I can see that one of my test case doesn't have a requirement associated. So then do I really need this test case? And there are various test cases which does not have development items on this. Let's look at a expanded view of this. I'm looking at my test case list, and I can quickly convert this standard test case list view into a traceability view. And when we do this, it goes to the system, gets me live information of which test cases are linked to which requirements. And you see in this second screen, I have only one test case which is linked to a requirement and linked to a development item. So really I can understand what are the gaps available today in my test cases. Do I really need these test cases to be run or not? And then be able to visualize this. I can export this all data out in CSV or a PDF. So I can gather that. Similarly, if I go on the first screen, then here I can see pretty much all the test cases are linked to the requirements and development items. The gap analysis can be again done on the same screen. So if you were to present this information to an auditor, you can easily extract this out in a CSV or a PDF and then export all this and pass it out as hard documents also. I'm going to come back on my slide deck. So requirements can be linked to test cases. Requirements can be linked to a requirement collection can be linked to a test plan. Collection is more of a grouping mechanism of this is the set of requirements which you can link to a test plan. And then you can even link the requirements to individual steps, and we'll see how that happens as well. So different views will help you figure out what are the current requirements, linkages to the test cases. However, if you've linked the requirements, it's possible that the requirements change, right? And how do you know that a requirement is changed? Just by sitting in the testing tool. So you need sort of a reconciliation which happens between the requirements and the test cases. If a requirement changes in the requirements tool, which is a different tool altogether from Rational Quality Manager, that change gets triggered, and in RQM, you'll be able to see that the test case has become suspected. So you can then modify or update the test case as in what is needed. And more applicable on the system space, but Doors is also another tool which integrates with Rational Quality Manager. So the plan can be linked to the Doors views, and the test cases can be linked to Doors requirements. Again, this is based off OSLC RM specification. So similar to any other tool which follows the OSLC RM specification, the integration can be built with Rational Quality Manager. If there were people using RequisitePro, then that also can be integrated with RQM. The integration is available out of the box. So you can see the requirements available in RequisitePro and then link them to the individual test cases in RQM. I know this is a requirement which keeps coming up when in the regulated environments there are very specific set of steps which have to be executed for different requirements. And the set of steps, if there were manual steps, you need to validate that that step has passed, and only then that requirement is actually complete. So here you can link your individual requirements to a manual test step. A manual script contains multiple steps, and a requirement can be linked as fine-grained as to a specific step, and you can create a trace till that point. So from a traceability perspective, what we covered was you have requirements which can be linked to test cases. A requirement collection can be linked to a test plan, and then if teams needed more fine-grained requirements traceability to individual test steps, that's also possible. Integrations can be between a Rational Quality Manager, which is a purely testing tool, test management tool. Test management tool can integrate with different requirements tools, be it IBM tools or external tools, who follow the OSLC RM specification. So you can integrate those requirements tools with RQM as well, and then reap the same benefits. Traceability views are available, so you can see, these are live views, you can see those and extract those. Looking at the views, you can do your gap analysis and fix up any gaps which are present, and then move forward. Next, we'll see how the review and approvals which are built in the system help us follow a specific process, and we'll see more from a process setting perspective on how this can be achieved. For artifacts like test plans, test cases, test suites, test scripts, the results, review and approval process is inbuilt in the system, so you don't need an external review approval process. Multiple reviewers and approvals can be configured. These can be role-based. For example, if you wanted a tester to review and a test lead to approve the test case, that's possible. So you define two different roles, tester and test lead, and you define one review for the tester and one review for the test lead. You can have a general discussion for the artifact, or you can have a general discussion for each review and approval. You can enter the reasons why the review was approved or rejected, and a lot of things can be configured for review and approvals. From a workflow perspective, there is an inbuilt workflow available with the tool. The out-of-the-box workflow suggests every artifact is created in a draft state, and then you move to a ready for review state. When somebody approves it, it moves to an approved state, and from approved state either it can be reopened or it can be retired based on the process. But that's an out-of-the-box workflow which is available. This is again customizable, so you can tailor this to fit your requirements and then you can assign different actions to happen when a state is reached. Let's go back to the system again and see some of this. I will go to the administrative side here to show some of these settings. So earlier what you saw in the browser was how every user would see Rational Quality Manager. The screen which you are seeing right now, which says Application Administration, this is where the admins configure the system. So now if I were to open, let's say, save of a test case, I configure my preconditions and follow-up actions for anything which happens on the Rational Quality Manager screen. So if I were to say I need approvals for somebody to be able to save a test case and move it from one state to another, I need approvals to happen. So I will add a transition group. Let's say I want somebody, when putting in an approved state, in the approval type, I need at least one team member to review that, to approve that, and then one team contributor to approve that. So based on the role of which the user has, while adding an approval, while confirming an approval, I will have at least one person who's a team member and one person who's a team contributor. They will have to come and approve the test case. Similarly, what we were seeing in the workflows earlier on the slide deck, various artifacts like a test plan and until the results have their own workflows which you can define. You can choose the workflow to be edited and then add different states, add a new state to it, add the operations in which on what action, what is the target state. So like from a draft state, I can go only to a review state, under review state, right? When the action is, transition is ready for review. And similarly, for an approved state, I could either reopen or I can retire. So that's how you can configure and modify based on that. I've seen some users modifying this out of the box workflow to add a published state where they want to publish that test case to an external third party, or maybe publish it to the auditor as well. So those are the ways you can modify the out of the box workflow and then add functionality based on your requirements. Okay. Let's look at the different audit requirements. What were the state of the executions and the e-signature? E-signature, as I said earlier, is pretty commonly used in these environments to comply to the various requirements they have. E-signatures can be configured for a project test case review or approval, test plan review approval, suites, results, any of those artifacts. And e-signatures can be configured for a lock or unlock as well. So if you were to lock an artifact and say no modifications, no further modifications allowed, you will be able to lock the artifact, and then when somebody has to explicitly enter the comments and say, I'm locking this artifact because I don't want this to be modified due to this reason. And if somebody has to unlock that, they have to mention that as a comment and say, this is what, this is the reason why I'm reopening the artifact, and then the system will capture all that information. So tomorrow, if you were to present that information to an auditor, on this particular time, this test case was locked, and till a duration of 3 months, this was not touched. in the system, nothing was modified, all that can be pulled out using those reports. Before we go to the process template, let me go back to the one of the test cases, and I want to show you the history on how does that get captured. So this is a test case, and if I were to go on the history section, it shows me all the details. For example, the last modification which happened was on October 29th, and then what was modified, who modified that. And similarly, go back on the history on October 23rd, the estimate was set to 3 hours. And similarly, go down, a new attachment was added on September 18th, right? So you can very well export this out into a PDF and then show that these things have not been modified, or what was the reason why this was modified. Similar things can be seen in the execution results also. So you can see what was modified, who actually ran the test, and then what happened in the actual test. So what we saw in the admin page, and that of course was not the complete set of process constraints, is really saved in a template. So you can create a process which you want to, let's say, across the organization you want a process to be followed, or across a BU you want a process to be followed. So in one project area you can create that sort of a process, and then you can export that out. You can extract those best practices out and reuse for quickly setting up new projects. Different roles and permissions can be extracted out, workflows, templates, various project preferences and properties can be extracted out, and then you can quickly reuse all this information while you're creating a new project area. The best practices will be utilized if you do this. So once done, you can always replicate it across different projects. Now, while this happens at one end, how does the tool actually help me to track all this information? Do I have to modify something in the tool, or does that happen automatically? So it will actually happen automatically. So whoever is doing the modification, they will see, they will not have to do anything extra. The tool will capture all this information. So while you're running a test, for example, while you're running a test, the state of the artifacts will be captured in the test result. What was the state of the test plan? Was it approved or not? So the test plan state was approved. And then the test case state, what was the state of that? So in this case, I can very well see it was in draft state. The script state. And then at the bottom screen, you can see that there were different steps of a test which were run. First of them was JKE login and then select an account. But then who actually ran this step? The right side, you can see there's a tested by, and you see the username and the timestamp at which this test was run. So you can quickly find out what was run by whom and then at what date. If there was a modification done at a later stage, that will also get captured. So you can see what were the details. If a test was ran at some point and somebody came back and modified that step, you can very well find that out. Let me open a test result, and we'll quickly see this in the tool as well. So the last column here, this is a test result where it captures all the details, the test environments, any defects which were created, what were the previous results, and this current results details. It has formal reviews and any associated e-signatures which are present. At the bottom you can see there were different columns where it says who was the tester who actually ran this test and when was this run. It captures all that information. And then it shows what was the state of the test plan or the test case when it was actually run. So this was run at some point, and then what was the state at the start of the test. All this helps while you are preparing for an audit report. Okay. Now also look at what is the sort of enforcement you can put in the tool. When you want to mandate users from doing certain actions when they're running a test or they're putting up for approvals, how do you lock different artifacts based on the state? So you can configure the system. So for example, if somebody were to say a test case has been approved by all the required parties, reviewed by a tester, approved by a test lead, then the test case should automatically get locked. That can be configured, so nobody can modify that. You can mandate entry of actual results when somebody is marking a step as a failed or blocked. Different settings can be done. We'll see that in the tool. Let's go back to the tool again. We'll go to the administrative page because we can see how these can be configured. Close this guy. So first, when I'm executing a test, various settings can be put in. For example, disallow execution until a test case has been approved. Let's add that. And I want to also say if the test script is not approved, then also don't allow execution. So once I save this, anytime when I'm trying to run a test case, you will be prompted and told that the test case is not approved, you can't run. If the test case and the test script both have been approved, only then a user will be able to run that test. And in a similar way, when I'm running a test, and when I run a test and I mark a step passed or failed or blocked, depending on what I want to configure the system for, I can either say for all the failed steps I need an actual result to be entered, or for the failed and the blocked steps I want the actual results, some text to be entered by the tester to explain why that step has failed or blocked, or all the steps. So I can configure the system for that. Okay, now I'm moving to the last topic where we talk about reporting and dashboards. Talked briefly about the dashboards earlier, so I'll skim through a little bit of that. So everybody gets a personal dashboard here. As a user, I can configure my work on that or whatever I'm tracking. There's a team dashboard based on different teams which you've configured. You can have different dashboards per team so that teams can do their discussions using those dashboards. And then there's a project dashboard which you can, as an overall system, how is the project behaving? You can configure the system to show information. The information can be on the same server, different servers, different tools also. If they are OSLC based integrations, you should be able to get a lot of that information. You can even configure open social gadgets on the dashboard, so you can see more details. From a reporting standpoint, we have various out-of-the-box inbuilt reports. It's based off Word technology. You can run those reports and get all the data. Many reports are live. Some of them are the ETL based or the warehouse based reports also. You can build customized reports using RRDI, which is Rational Reporting for Development Intelligence. And there's an interface for document generation also. So if you were to create a report which is more of a document style, there's a Rational Publishing Engine integration. So you can just get that. More enhanced reporting can be via rational insight. If you had a cross-domain, various tools are involved, and based on the needs, you can use more customized reports using rational insight. Once you build these reports, there's a common user interface. You can, for all the CLM applications, it's a common user interface. You can see all the reports here, manage them, run them. These were, and then you can even put these reports on your dashboard and see them on a regular basis. The information will be refreshed automatically. There are chart-based reports and line reports or tabular reports. Depending on what is the requirement, you can look at those. This is what is of importance. Again, we started off with traceability earlier, but we're also going to end with the traceability aspect, where this is sort of your traceability metrics, where you see your requirements. So the first part of this report shows, and this is, by the way, an inbuilt report. The first part is the requirement detail, and then there's a test plan against which that requirement was to be tested. The test case is actually linked to this requirement, and you can see that there's a trace which gets created. When you run a test case execution record, a result was created which has failed. You have a defect which was failed. That defect is not resolved. The defect state says new. And this report really gives you all that information. So you will know, looking at this report upfront, that are your testers actually running the test in the right way as you had expected, and if all your traces between your requirements really to the defects. I'm not going to talk about only test here. Requirements to test to the defects, are all those test linkages getting created? These linkages get created, a lot of them automatically. The only linkage which manually has to be created is between the requirement and the test case, and then you start getting your linkages to the defects and to the results, all of that getting created automatically. That's pretty much what I had as content today. I would strongly encourage on folks interested to look at some of these details on jazz.net. There's a forum where you can ask questions. There's our project is built and self-hosted. When I say self-hosted, we use the product on jazz.net. We have a sandbox where people can really create their own projects and play around with the tools. It's free to be used. You just have to get a jazz.net ID, which is really a two-step process to register on jazz.net. And then you can create your sandbox and play around with the tools. And there's a trial license which is available. And you don't need to deploy it. It's all deployed. And you can access the tool and see the functionalities yourself. That's all I had. Thank you. And if there are any questions, we can proceed to those.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Vaibhav. Let's quickly take up the questions now. I request you to please read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the insights.
Absolutely.
Have you received the question? Can you see the questions?
I am trying to figure out. I can see. Well, I can't see a question there yet. It says post them now.
Okay, can you undock the question panel and expand the window?
Okay. Okay, I haven't got a question till now.
Might be some problem. Can you see the window doc, question doc?
I can see the chat.
No, there would be a question doc in your panel.
Oh, okay, let me see. I got that. Thank you.
You're most welcome. We have pretty well number of questions. Please start taking them.
Yes. As soon as I can expand this to read it out. Okay, I'm going to start on top, and I have a good list of questions. That's excellent. Just give me 1 second. As soon as I can see those questions a little more bigger. So the first question says, did incident helps in any ways in Rational Quality Manager? Or did incident management helps out anyways in Rational Quality Management? So with instance, I would assume that this is sort of a incidents reported in the tool, and you can manage that in Rational Quality Manager. The way that the defect which I was describing, that can be configured to show up as an incident, and that you can manage in RQM itself. So when an incident happens, you can report that, and then be able to triage that, be able to put in details in that, do a dialogue between the submitter and the person who's actively working on that, and then basically take it forward to the next step. The second question is it possible for you to send me this PPT? Sure, I would share it with the organizer, and they should be able to upload that. I'm guessing the recording should also be available later. Do you think earlier assessment of, the question number 3 is, do you think earlier assessment of test metrics should be considered, or will it make effective for current scenario? Okay, I'm trying to understand this quickly again. Do you think earlier assessment of test metrics should be considered, or will make effective for current scenario? I'm a little unclear on this question. What I understand with this is it so maybe the question is it useful to do a test assessment earlier in the cycle versus trying to do that later? My suggestion and my recommendation there would be, it's extremely important to do this upfront and do this on an ongoing basis, because while you are actually authoring the test, you're constructing the test, you can figure out if there are any gaps, or you're actually doing some extra work. You have to do this ongoing, because the requirements might change, right? And a new requirement can get added, or an existing requirement can be deleted also. You have to be cautious of the fact that there is limited time for the testers, and there is absolutely no time to waste there. So it's important to do that ongoing. Doing that at a later point is really effective to showcase and really submit to the auditors as well, to a DER, for example, right? If you were to submit the details to external third party for getting it audited and reviewed, can you make all that information available to them? And yes, the tooling I showed today, this information can be pulled out and shared. You can keep track of all of this in the tool and export the data out.
Vaibhav, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is not clear. Can you please check?
Sure. Hello?
Yeah, you're audible now. Your voice was coming a little low. Can you please check and talk a little louder?
Okay, I'll speak a little louder on that. That should help.
Yeah, this is better. Thank you. Please continue.
Sure. So there's a question which says, you're showing the tool which is user-friendly for quality management. How well other tools like QCLM meet the same or goals can be achieved, since most of the industries we are running with quality center tools? That's a good question. I mean, thank you first of all for stating that this was a user-friendly quality management tool. I appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, there are teams and companies and customers who've been using different tools. It's not only QC. There are other quality tools also available in the market, and people use that. It would be hard for me to quantify how other tools meet the same requirement, but the customers whom I work with, and I have worked with a pretty good set of customers on these areas, they have been they've been able to use the quality management tool RQM, IBM RQM, pretty well. The best part about our solution here is, because as I mentioned, it's all developed on jazz.net. Even if a customer has a requirement, they actually come down and put that information on jazz.net. They just create a work item for us. They create a task for us, and that's more of an enhancement to be included in the product, and we just start including that based on priority. So it's actually nice to hear that you like the way the tool works. The shows off, but I think I would also encourage you to go the next step and use the tool in on the sandboxes on jazz.net, so that you know more capabilities of the tool. The tool has a lot to offer. The more you spend the time with it, you would know a little more detail. A lot of collateral is already available on jazz.net around the tool. The next question is, did business process flow or end-to-end methodology will be covered in the artifact state diagram? So what really you can do here is you can extract the artifact states individually and then collate that data. There are other ways of creating a customized report to visualize all of that data in a common BPF sort of mechanism. But then you will have to create a customized report to do that. All this information is available in the tool and is reportable. So any document-based report, or if you want a visual report, then there's more work obviously involved in that. But a document-based report works out pretty well in this case, and you can get the artifact state information. The next question is, do you think agile methodology will move away from DevOps lifecycle comes into picture? Oh, I think agile is very important. So I know a little bit about DevOps because I have my involvement in that space, but agile is something where one of the goals of agile is to be able to give more to the customer, give at a frequent interval to the customer, right? The customer should be able to get the value of faster, but without reducing the quality, without reducing without increasing the less defects, right? I mean, you don't want a buggy software to be, and not overburdening the development or the test team for that. What DevOps also helps you do is it channelizes your release cycle. So DevOps is development plus operations. So although your development, you can automate a lot of things, like you can automate your JUnit test run. You can automate your functional test to be run on every build. You can configure a build verification test, which is a set of REST API test, WSDL test, a lot of JUnit tests which do the functionality, a lot of regression tests which run through the UI and then make sure that your UI has not regressed. You can do all that, but eventually when a build is done, you want all that to be run at that point. So with RQM also you can configure the system. So every time a build is run, you can run all this set of tests. But then when a build is run, you get the whole pipeline automated. So you check in a code, your build gets triggered automatically, a set of tests are run, it automatically deploys on a system, you run those tests, you capture the results. There's an offering already present now, so somebody can just pick it up and use it. So I think both of them have to work in sync, in line. They may be more newer methodologies which will come in. But I think both of them are pretty relevant at the moment, and both of them should be utilized if the project needs it. So the next question is, hello web of RQM is just awesome. Just want to know if IBM will also provide training on end-to-end usage of RQM. Thank you, Prithvi. Yes, IBM does have different programs in which you can get trainings on end-to-end usage and administration of RQM. I think there's a certification also available if you are interested in taking it forward. My email address is on the site, or the organizers should be able to guide you on how you can channel that to me or somebody in our team, and we should be able to get you that training of end-to-end scenarios. There's a question from Priyanka which says, how this tool is different from QC? Priyanka, as I said, it's hard to quantify different tools and do a comparison, because I can spend a lot of time on doing a comparison. I would suggest looking at it from a value proposition perspective, and you see if the tools which you like, for example, if RQM is meeting the tools, the use cases which you need, it's giving you the right information, it's able to cater to what you and your system needs. I think that's the tool which we should use, and based on your requirements, different tools are useful. The next question is how to use Bugzilla. This is by Abhishek. Abhishek, there's an article on jazz.net. I would imagine you're asking how to use Bugzilla with Rational Quality Manager, because how to use Bugzilla you should be able to find on the Bugzilla site itself. There's an article on jazz.net which talks about how the whole integration works. If you search, there's a forum and there are articles available on jazz.net. Since my screen is sharing, I'll quickly open jazz.net in the background. So you can read a lot of details on jazz.net and see how the integrations work. I think it's pretty seamless, but it's good to always look at that. I believe there's a video also available, and you can see that. What will be the cost benefit? This is a question by Shubhra. What will be the cost benefit when compared to a test management tool like HPQC? Shubhra, it's hard to quantify that on the over the phone. There are various aspects, and I'm not the best person to do a cost comparison. If you are interested on this, I think it'll be good to get in touch with folks from IBM and take that discussion forward. Do you think DevOps lifecycle will replace Agile? I think we answered that question earlier. It's pretty similar. Okay, I'm trying to find. Some of the questions are actually a little repeat, so I'm skipping those off. The next question is, in which ways parts RQM, Rational Quality Manager, is different from RTC, an IBM product? Actually, if you look at jazz.net, you will be able to see a lot of differences between the tools, but Rational Team Concert is really a developer's tool, and Rational Quality Manager is a tester's tool. So from a development perspective, if you were to use any tooling on the Jazz platform, Rational Team Concert is the product to be used. It provides you a lot of these capabilities of if you are an agile development team, you get agile development practices. If you're waterfall, that's also there. Then it has work item management, it has source control management, it has a lot of those details which you would need as a development tool user. Whereas Rational Quality Manager, as we talked about today, was a test management tool where you create your test cases, test plans, and then run that. If I were to look at a DevOps scenario, then Rational Team Concert would be the one where developer will get a task or a defect. They will write some code, check in the code, that gets saved as part of Rational Team Concert, and then when a build is created, and that could also be via Rational Team Concert, a build is created and deployed, the set of tests which are run are from Rational Quality Manager. Again, there's a costing question which I'm not aware. I think you have to get in touch with somebody from IBM. Can we migrate data from QC to RQM? This is a question by Priyanka, and the answer is yes. If you would like more details, please get in touch. We should be able to help you out there. The software this is a question by Jayesh. The software follows the basic process of test reporting. So how is it different from other available softwares? There was a slide where, Jayesh, there was a slide where I talked about the various reporting solutions. So there's a out-of-the-box report. There are customized reports which are for CLM applications, and then there is more enhanced reporting using Rational Insight. Imagine if you had a system where there was Rational Quality Manager, Rational Team Concert, a database-based tool which is totally different, a third-party tool which has a file system storage. If you were to come to the IBM solutions, the Rational Insight reporting solution will be able to gather all that data from various different data sources and then be able to pull out a report and give you the required information. I think that's the value proposition from a reporting perspective in this whole story. But if you would like to know more details about reporting, I would suggest to get in touch with us, and we can do we can probably do a more detailed discussion around that. How many companies approximately use quality management tool, and what is their feedback on this tool? Shrikant, this is a question from Shrikant. Shrikant, actually the best way to find that out, and I'm sorry, but I can't share how many companies use the tool due to various restrictions, but I can tell you there are a lot of companies, and in different domains you'll find a lot of these companies. It's not only IT, it's not only systems, it's not only regulated environments, it's a spread across multiple domains. The tool has been being used for a number of years now, and new capabilities continue to get added every 3 months to the product. So you can pick up at any point and then upgrade the system also. A lot of those feedback and all can be seen on jazz.net itself. A lot of discussions happen, and we keep helping our customers by way of our forums on jazz.net itself. So the screen on the background is jazz.net. If you look at, there are different details, library and a forum which is mentioned. You can utilize these links to see more details.
Vaibhav, due to time constraint, can you please, if you would like to close the session now or take few more questions, you have 5 minutes more. So I request you to wind it a little
Sure.
little earlier. Thank you.
Sure. Let me do that. I'm just walking through all of them.
Sure.
The next question is it possible to maintain test plans and test metrics based on various version releases? And is it possible to get reports on test results based on release number versions of the products compared to comparison being possible between release? So the short answer is yes, you can do a version-based or a release-based extraction of test results, test plans, and then the comparison can be done while all the data is extracted out. Actually, that was the last question in the list which I saw. This is great. Actually, the questions were very much relevant, and I hope I've been able to answer the questions you had. There were a few things which you may have to get in touch to get more details. But if you were to find more details about the product, Jazz.net is the best place to see and play around with the tool. It tells you about the various integrations which are available, the various new things which we continue doing. If you go to the downloads page, you will see the product and the various milestones. So very recently on October 22nd, we did a 405 release 1 candidate, and we plan to have that pretty soon. You can see the new and noteworthies of all the things which have happened, different things which have changed in the releases. You can download the various releases, do a beta downloads, and see all that. So the last major release which happened September, you can see all the details from here on what all has changed in that, and based on what your requirements are, you can take it forward. Sandbox. Try the sandbox. Anybody who wants to see the functionality now and play around with the tool, just create your own sandbox, which is at the top. Okay, so that's all I had. Thank you everyone who's been able to attend the call today. Aradhana, I think I've covered pretty much all needed today.
Thank you, Weber, for conducting this wonderful webinar with us. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Weber, for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
I close the session
thanks.
now.
Thanks.